This video is sponsored by Audible.
Burn it!
Hello Internet, Taliesin here, and this is a video I wasn't planning, but which I feel like I have to make for reasons that I hope will become clear as we go on. But today, Internet, we are talking about Sylvanas. We are talking her character and story arc from Battle of Azeroth and the Burning of Teldrassil onwards. And we are talking about whether disgraced ex-senior creative director Alex Afrasiabi sabotaged her as some sort of spiteful parting shot to the company and the game, or perhaps just through sheer incompetence. It is a topic that's been gathering traction online recently since Bellular, a creator wildly more popular than me, and rightfully so, frankly, because I mean, have you seen this man's loft? That is one beautiful loft. That is a proper YouTuber loft right there. Fair play. I cannot compete with that kind of beamwork. But Bellular tweeted about this, inspired by Ian Bates, aka Red Shirt Guy, aka very close dear personal friend of mine ever since I touched his back that one time in the Warcraft Q&A. And in the Ian Bates tweet that Bellular was talking about, Ian Bates was talking about a tweet from last December from Michelle Morrow, the voice actor for Alleria in Hearthstone. And in that tweet, Michelle is talking about it. It being the idea that, in Belle's interpretation at least, Afrasiabi had the last laugh with Sylvanas, pretty much destroying her arc and surely leaving remaining writers in a strange position. And I know he's making a video on the subject which will be out before this video is published, but not before it's recorded. So this is not a response to his video, because I haven't seen it. I've actually been in contact with him about it. No, rather this is to tell you what I know about the impact that Afrasiabi had on where Sylvanas and the story of WoW are at right now. Because, as it happens, I know a fair bit. As I hint at in this reply to Bell, I have heard some things on this subject, and judging by the responses of Morrow, Scott Johnson, and Towley, some other famously in with the devs personalities, I'm not the only one. And at this moment where this is a buzz topic and opinions about it are being formed and hot takes being made online, I think it's maybe important to share exactly what I know to help inform the wider conversation. Because, as I will show you, there is more than a little truth about the idea that Afrasiabi decided on a certain direction for Sylvanas, which the rest of the writers on WoW didn't necessarily share or agree with, and that the current team may have been essentially playing cleanup on ever since. And also, to be clear, this isn't a speculation video when it comes to that statement. I've got receipts. So allow me for one moment to talk about sources. Obviously, it is known that in my time covering World of Warcraft, I have come into contact with a number of talented and amazing people connected to the game in some way. Here's me touching Ian Bates' back, for example. And some of those people make the game. That basically can't be helped to a certain degree, and some of those people I become genuinely friendly with. Terran Gregory and Christy Golden are pretty obvious examples of people that I would consider real-life friends. More often than not, though, when it comes to people who work on WoW, I'm just someone who makes funny videos about their work, which get passed around the office every now and then. And what that means over the years is that people that I've met at BlizzCon or shared a few jokey emails with have, on occasion, shared with me certain little tidbits of information that they think I'll appreciate or enjoy, on the understanding that it's off the record and I'm not going to go around shouting it from the rooftops. And 9 times out of 10, this is stupid, harmless stuff. For example, did you know that the Nightborn were originally conceived to all have French accents in Legion? Because they were, and if you think about it, that's a really good idea on paper, right? You're talking about this decadent society with masked balls and vineyards and indulgent clothes. A lot of their design has a genuine 18th century let them eat cake feel to it, further solidified by all those Suramar quests that have you sneaking around, plotting to overthrow the corrupted monarch and getting all Can You Hear the People Sing, building up Thalissara's resistance army. Of course, you might consider giving them French accents, and honestly, how cool would that have been? What are you hiding? Something is not quite right. My grandmother was French, so... The team was apparently quite evenly split on the idea of giving the Nightborn French accents, with some convinced it was a goer, and some certain it would just be really annoying. And apparently, they got as far as a first draft of the Thalissara cinematic being voiced by a French actress, which is the thing that made everyone watch it and decide that actually, yeah, it is really annoying. That's the story I've been told by people on the team, people plural. I happen to believe it because of who the sources that told me the story were, but also I wasn't there. It might not be true at all. Other Legion devs could be watching this right now and shaking their heads in disbelief about this totally random, made-up thing that I've just imparted to you. Like any report, you have to make decisions based on who is telling you, what their biases might be, and what their track record is. And that goes for whether I believe my sources as much as for whether you believe what I tell you. And on the other hand, there are some things that I get told that clearly aren't meant to be repeated in public. And in those cases, I am absolutely not going to betray the trust of my source, right? And not just because I want them to continue to trust that they can tell me funny stories about the Nightborn, but because on a human level, it would just be like a really shitty thing to do as a person. And this kind of information being given to me has happened a few times, and this stuff about Afrasiabi was one of those times and one of those things, because over the course of about a year, I heard some of the things that I'm going to tell you now from no less than 4 different sources at different times in different contexts, all under the strictest confidence and very clearly not meant for public airing. And even though this shit is juicy AF, there was never any question that I would repeat it. Not properly anyway. Probably alluded it to it in passing on stream, but no one really watches my streams, and I certainly wasn't about to make a video on it, you know? Now though, thanks to Bellular covering it, which he is perfectly entitled to do, and him being one of the biggest creators in the space, there isn't really much that I can achieve by staying quiet. At the moment, this entire conversation is happening on essentially fourth-hand information. I at least can offer some second-hand. And with the knowledge that I've been told this by so many different people now independently, that I'm incredibly confident that it cannot be traced to the people who told me, I think it would be useful to share what I know. Oh, and by the way, just before that, I don't think I need to clarify this, but just in case, obviously, it is not Terran Gregory or Christy Golden that have told me this. Mostly because those motherfuckers don't tell me anything. Terran Gregory. Okay, so like I say, I've had DMs on this from 4 people that I've met in real life and know to be legit. I'm only going to show you the actual DMs from 2 of them because I think it's maybe possible that others might have identifying hints to them. And even then, I'm not going to show you every DM for the same reasons. So you're not going to get a whole conversation here, just the relevant bits. Right, in no particular order. One morning, I woke up to this. Would you like an off-the-record piece of information? Danuser didn't write The Burning of Teldrassil.
When BFA was in development, Danuser wasn't even working on it. He was still on Legion quests, and now he's stuck with this crap and trying to do the best he can.
And I have to admit that these DMs made me laugh because I already knew all of this, because I'd already talked to someone else about it like a month earlier. And so if I were to show you my side of this exchange, it was just me going, no, really? No way. Now, obviously, the most striking thing about this is how it could be read as a defense of Danuser rather than anything else, right? So let's get one thing straight here. I'm not interested in defending Danuser, okay? In terms of this whole Afrasiabi thing, I'm just interested in the truth, and honestly, the revelation that Steve had very little to do with the main narrative event of BFA shouldn't really come as a surprise or revelation at all. A quick look at his LinkedIn tells you that he was on quest design until like a month before BFA and the Burning of Teldrassil was announced at BlizzCon 2017. There's no way its conception has anything to do with him, and that's obvious to anyone. That's always been obvious. What's interesting here to me is the idea that Steve is now trying to resolve those problems that he and the rest of the team inherited. There's another couple of DMs I want to show you from another source that follow a similar line, and this one is a bit spicier. Alex Afrasiabi unilaterally made the decision to burn the World Tree and set Sylvanas on her villain path. And he did it without a plan, and then he left the WoW team. None of the current narrative team are happy with the World Tree burning, but they couldn't pretend like it never happened. They are waiting for the day that they can move past the Sylvanas story and stop treating WoW like Game of Thrones. So to my mind, there's a clear picture being built up here, corroborated by the other DMs that I'm not going to share, of a major and controversial narrative decision being decided on and championed by Afrasiabi, who in fairness was the senior creative director at Blizzard at the time. Like literally everyone else on the narrative team was below him in importance and power, which maybe wasn't so enthusiastically met by the rest of the senior narrative team at the time, which then got abandoned halfway through when Afrasiabi became too much of a liability and left the company, and which Steve Danuser, who was a quest designer when all this went down, is now in charge of resolving. Whether you think he's doing a good or a bad job of that is up to you to argue about in the comments, but also totally irrelevant to what we're trying to work out here. I'm not interested in trying to defend or excuse any writing from any writer since. No one is trying to throw anyone under the bus. We're just asking what actually happened here, because it's interesting to know, and sometimes the truth is just good for its own sake. So did he spitefully, purposely sabotage Sylvanas because he just wanted to piss everyone off? Was this his last laugh, his FU to a player base or a game or a team that he resented? Judging by what people have said to me, I don't think so, honestly. I think this story's a little bit more nuanced and actually a little bit more sad than that. Let's start with the Burning of Teldrassil. Do I think that Alex Afrasiabi, whose job it was to come up with the ideas, burn Teldrassil as some kind of aggressive act, like to purposely F everyone over and be an absolute dick about it? No, I don't think so. And one of the main reasons I don't think that is because I think the Burning of Teldrassil was quite good, actually. Okay, let me explain.
Hey everyone! So sometimes we kind of struggle to actually integrate these integrations, but it's funny, this one kind of just made sense. I think we can all agree that 2022 is going to be all about fresh starts, building self-awareness, and positive change. And we're really happy to be teaming up with Audible for this video, which has the largest selection of audiobooks out there, including a really great range of titles dedicated to self-reflection and generally not being a dickhead. And I mean, I'm not thinking of anyone in particular here. One of my recent favorites is The No Asshole Rule by Professor Robert I. Sutton, the definitive guide to building a better workplace, I don't know, like a game dev company, by dealing with, and I quote, bullies, creeps, jerks, tyrants, tormentors, despots, backstabbers, egomaniacs, and all the other assholes who do their best to try and destroy you. My personal favorite part is that it includes a self-diagnostic test to see if you are, in fact, the asshole. Not that anyone comes to mind here, but why not give it a try? Audible also comes with loads of member benefits you might not know about, including 1 credit per month for their premium collection and unlimited access to their new Plus catalog, which has literally thousands of audiobooks, guided meditations, podcasts, including How to Be a Better Person with Kate Hanley, in case that's useful, and even sleep tracks, because honestly, how do you sleep at night? If it sounds like you or someone you might know might enjoy this kind of thing, you can try it all for free for 30 days by clicking the link in the description, heading to audible.com/Taliesin and Evitel, or texting, I know, Taliesin and Evitel to 500 500. Just Taliesin and Evitel, no pictures of yourself or parts of your body, please, thanks. Still not sure where to start with Audible? Why not take a leaf from one of Sarah Knight's titles and get your shit together? No one specific really comes to mind, but check it all out for free at audible.com/Taliesin and Evitel, or text Taliesin and Evitel to 500 500. Happy 2022, everyone.
So Alex Afrasiabi's job was to create a narrative for World of Warcraft that facilitated a cohesive through line of story and world development, but also to sell a video game. And there's nothing wrong with hype, you know? There's nothing wrong with excitement and buzz around a story. In fact, I would say those are good things. And I think the Burning of Teldrassil absolutely achieved what Alex Afrasiabi would have conceived it to. Like, that is one hell of an image to include in your expansion reveal, right? And to tell your players that the World Tree and the Undercity were going to get destroyed in the opening exchanges of a war. It was a dramatic image, a huge idea, a massive in-game event with lasting consequences, with one of the game's most loved and controversial figures at the very center of it all. It got everyone talking about it and discussing and speculating and often arguing for the best part of a year before it even actually happened. I would argue that at its most basic, the Burning of Teldrassil is an example of Afrasiabi being very good at his job. The problem is not that he did it, the problem is that he clearly had no idea why it happened, he clearly had no idea what the end or even middle of this story was going to be. It's like the polar bear in Lost, right? The polar bear in Lost is incredibly cool. It is incredibly cool and intriguing and exciting that there is a polar bear on this tropical island. It's like, whoa, how did that get there? This is great. And it is, as long as the writers do know why it's there and didn't just put it there because it's cool, with the intention of working out how it got there later. As it turns out, the writers on Lost had no idea why the polar bear was there, which is why Lost sucks. And Afrasiabi had no idea how he was going to resolve the events that he kickstarted with his cool burning tree. Because in hindsight, Alex clearly planned to basically just wing it, I guess, which is also very evident in the way BFA pans out. Quite a lot like Lost, actually, with its, ooh, here's an interesting thing, what's happening here? Well, maybe we'll tell you later when we've worked it out. Ooh, here's an interesting thing, what's happening here? Well, maybe we'll find out later when we work it out. Forever and ever, until you realize, you know what, I don't think they really are going to tell us half this stuff, because I don't think they know. That is definitely backed up by what people at Blizz have told me, and also by his behavior at the time too, because frankly, he was kind of acting weird. In fact, he was acting in a way that I can best describe as being on one. In the round of interviews straight after the BFA announcement, he said that he had been personally writing Sylvanas since 2006, and that's just not true, by all accounts. There was him saying randomly that Sylvanas was responsible for and planned the Wrathgate incident, as if that was established canon, which it wasn't, and hilariously, still isn't, as in his wake, the team appeared to have just completely ignored that. There was all that shit about firing the cannon that he just plucked out of thin air. Basically, there's a pattern here of impulsive decisions that affect very important and impactful parts of the story, which Afrasiabi seemingly decides on without much consideration beyond the positive audience reaction that he's going to get in the moment that he says it.
We're going to fire that cannon.
The way people on the team have described his approach to me is that he was proud of treating every WoW expansion like it was the last WoW expansion, which is great until there's another WoW expansion with a story that needs to carry on from the last one. The cannon still hasn't been fired, obviously. So do I think there was a vendetta against Sylvanas from Afrasiabi? That, as the rumor goes, he was annoyed at how Garrosh's story went in Mists and decided to get revenge on the Banshee? I'm just speculating here based on the evidence at hand, but I don't think so, no. It sounds like a guy who got an idea in his head that he knew would be a total showstopper and did it, without properly planning how it was going to resolve, and without really listening to the people around him, confident that he could make it work as the expansion played out. Kind of like the ultimate dude, trust me. But then got sacked from the company, finally, for being a complete piece of shit, leaving a team who never asked for this monumental, controversial, no-win story to somehow resolve it to everyone's liking. Did Danuser and his gang manage that? I think many of you would probably say no, and that is fair enough. I think in Sahdowlands, they've probably tried to give the Sylvanas arc the focus and weight and central part of the story that they felt the character deserved, and which the build-up in BFA kind of demanded. And whether or not this is their fault exactly, I think there's a huge part of the community which would quite reasonably hold the opinion that they have failed in various parts of that. And there's plenty of room for videos on YouTube discussing the things that are wrong with the Sahdowlands story. But I think it is also true to recognize that it's not really the current team's story. That it was kind of dropped in their laps like a cool but problematic polar bear. And there is some truth in the idea that 10.0 will be the first real shot that Danuser has at his own thing. When 9.2 was announced and he said,
Eternity's End serves as the final chapter of one book of the Warcraft saga.
I think it's fair to interpret that not as him copying the language of Final Fantasy XIV, although why would that be bad, or claiming that he wrote Warcraft 3, but as basically closing the book on the story that he and his team inherited and being able to start telling their own tale. And of course, only time will tell if that's been worth the wait, but when it comes to Alex Afrasiabi's contribution to the current state of World of Warcraft, at the very least, there's a general sentiment among the devs that he started something which he had no idea how to finish, and that they've been trying to wrap it up for him ever since. You will make up your own mind, as you should. I'm just telling you what I know. So thank you for joining us today. I never thought I would end up making this video, honestly, but here we are. Hopefully it proves a worthy addition to the discourse and helps clarify some things in amongst all the he said, she said. If you like this video, don't thank us. Thank our patrons who give their actual real life money to make all of our work happen. And if you didn't like it, downvote the shit out of it. Remember, my name is Michelle Morrow. No, my name is Taliesin from me and Evitel and Anirin too. Until next time, cheerio.